Dr. Sudipto Ghosh, he did his BTech, MTech and PhD from IIT Kanpur, is currently serving as professor in Department of Metallurgical and Materials Engineering at IIT Kharagpur. Computational material science and advanced energy storage materials are his prime research areas. He has taught wide varieties of courses including physics of materials, atomistic modeling, and computational material science. His team is the first to show that ancient Ayurvedic practitioners were the first to synthesize nanomaterials thousands of years before it was synthesized in the West. Since 1995, he was trained in the field of science, spirituality by Dr. T.D. Singh. Under his inspiration and guidance, Professor Ghosh has also significantly contributed to the area of science and spirituality. He is board member and director of Bhaktivedanta Institute. Now I hand over the stage to Professor Sudipto Ghosh.
Thank you very much. So we professors are actually trained to speak the same thing in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, or so in 5 hours. So my usual, my working, I work in the research is my nanomaterials and computational material science and battery, like lithium-ion battery. That's our lab is the first lab to make indigenous lithium-ion battery at Kharagpur IIT, and presently I'm having almost like more than 10 crores on government-funded project on this. And my interest in the Vedic science is in the nanoparticles, origin of life, of course batteries in ancient India, and Sankhya and modern physics, which is very close to Ayurveda also. Next. Okay. So I just want to say something. Actually, as human beings, with all our efforts, we really don't understand how universe came about. I mean, this is an issue in science which is summarizing 125 questions which science doesn't have answer. How universe came about, how life originated, how consciousness comes about. Now, next. So Vedas actually answer this, and what Professor Hegde was also trying to point out, that our actual universe is divine. Because if you look the way the cells are formed, we cannot make a cell. So the universe is divine, matter is divine, and the life is divine, and it shows the imprint. So what is Vedas? Vedas are coming from where the universe has originated, life has originated. Same is the origin of Vedas. Vedas is not human creation. That is as Vedas say themselves. And if we deny this, that means we are saying that the ones who have written Vedas are lying. So that is not fair actually. Okay. So it is basically originating, it's a divine origin, and it is coming down, and that, okay, now next slide. So even the Charak Samhita, these are all actually part of the Vedic tradition. And according to Charaka, Ayurveda is eternal. Eternal means, again, I mean, it's not human created, it is having a divine origin. And definitely now, it is also based on Sankhya philosophy, which is there in the Vedas and Bhagavatam in a very detailed way. And gives a very different description of the human body, which is very, very, it has sharp distinction from the way the modern people describe it. Okay, so next let us go. Now this is something which is a very, very common kind of notion, that man came and he sat under the tree, and under the tree a language like Sanskrit came out from him, and Vedas came, Yoga came, Ayurveda came. No, it cannot come like that. Why? I mean, today also man is not intelligent, he is also intelligent. But these will not come out like that. Okay, so that is one thing one has to meditate, and it is very easy to understand. Next slide. So you can see the most and the only scientific language in the world is Sanskrit. Completely. You can actually program it also. Okay, it is a part of Vedas. Now just see, if somebody says that I am giving a good knowledge, evaluate him. Okay. Music, classical music, you cannot get something like that. The Shastri music, and all musicians, irrespective of their religious background, They strongly believe in this, that it is coming from a divine source. I was once hearing Zakir Hussain, Ustad Zakir Hussain was telling that how everything came from the Damru of Lord Shiva, and it's a divine. And they sincerely believe this. Shankhya, philosophy of Shankhya, very less explored. Of course, Patanjali Yoga, by very much I give credit to Baba Ramdev for popularizing and making it effective. Whatever people say about it, I'm not concerned, but really today yoga, and also in popularizing and bringing faith in Ayurveda, he has a tremendous contribution. Then Ayurveda is a great example. I mean, people, if you look around, people are getting cured by cancer like a regular thing, and all kinds of disease. And then mathematics, many people don't know calculus was there in the Vedic tradition much before Newton. And you hear the lecture of Professor H.C. Verma of IIT Kanpur, very famous teacher of physics. Calculus was there. Like 4 pi r square, where you get this from? Bhaskar gave it by integral calculus. Okay, so mathematics, there's a big tradition and so many things. So only 7%, at the best, only 7% of the Vedic literatures are present. One big scholar of Vedic knowledge, Jeev Goswami, he actually from the cross-reference, he showed that at least 93% are lost. So whatever is there, even there it is a big storehouse. So next, now, very important before I come to nanomaterial, Ayurveda is based on a different structure of matter. A very different structure of matter. If you read Shankhya, of course, there is Paramanu, but it's based on a different structure. Next slide. Yeah, this is what. Can you all hear me? Yeah. So this is the consciousness, and these are actually mind. These 3 elements. So they don't have any spatial location. Where is mind? You cannot say. This is the coordinate of mind. Where is intellect? You cannot coordinate. These are non-local elements, and which it's like the wave function of. So in physics also we have non-spatial, non-temporal things. The wave function. What is wave function? Wave function of an electron is everywhere in the universe. It doesn't have any location. So mind falls into these 3. You can see mind because you are experiencing mind. You don't need any proof. You experience the intellect. What you think about yourself is because of the element called false ego. Whatever you think, the child thinks, now I am thinking I am very happy. I am thinking I am very confident. Next I am thinking I am morose. So this is your own conception about yourself, that is false ego. Then comes to till here. Actually you're subtle. Even the auditory sense in Shankhya, even the bacteria can have hand. It is subtle, it is not the gross one. And the gross world starts from here. Now this gross world and this pancha bhuta, it starts from the gross world. And the physical body. Can you go to the next slide? Next, yeah. So the way, I mean, I'm not an Ayurvedic expert, and I am come here rather to have today some solid interaction with some Ayurvedic expert. The human body is also even the gross element, the physical element, it having some kind of a structure. So these vata, pitta, kapha, they are basically made of these 5 basic elements. And these elements are not simple. They are very, very subtle and driving force. And okay, next slide. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So you have heard about these chakras. So this chakra, what are these chakras? These are actually there is another body which is made of air primarily. Okay? Where the chakras are present. So when I remember Baba Ramdev reminds, there are 72 crore, 72 lakh, kitna something he says, 10,021 nadiyan hai. Something, 72,000, yeah, something. Some nadi, I still forget. He tries to always make people memorize this. These nadis are actually in this your body, which is made of air and ether element. And the chakras are present there. And actually, if you look the whole Vedic concept and the concept of Ayurveda, the thing is controlled top down. It is our physics is always bottom up. When you try to understand something, you will say how the electron is behaving. Because the electron is behaving like this, the molecule is behaving like this. Because the molecule is behaving like this, the tissue is behaving like this. But if you closely look at Sankhya and Ayurvedic concepts, it is actually the top down. Okay. And top down, and finally, it actually also knows how to control the molecular and electronic level. So Professor Gangadhar is here, and they have a wonderful paper actually, and I always keep that paper in my laptop, and it is still there. And how they are showing this Vata, Pitta, Kapha, they actually have an imprint at the molecular genetic level. So you do some, and as Professor Hegde was telling, you make some change in the mind, it will go finally and come to the molecular level. It's very, very important. So if one develops these spiritual qualities of forgiveness and other things, finally, it will percolate at your DNA level. Okay. Now let me come to my main topic, that is on nanomaterials. And maybe some little bit you will have some bore, but I will try to make it interesting. Next slide. Okay. Now let me tell you something. The modern way has something. See, modern way is primarily inference. How you know about atom? Nobody can show you atoms or electrons. It's just inference. Ayurveda also, when they see the pulse, it is inference. Okay, you cannot see these elements. Air, water, fire, ether. From Nadi you do it, and recently there is a very good work from IIT Bombay. This is incidentally, I mean, they developed a device called Hamsadhwani. And they are actually now, many hospitals and Ayurvedacharya, I mean, they are actually hiring that. And you can actually diagnose many diseases. So Ayurveda has a very good way of diagnosis. Nowadays we want diagnosis without creating any non-invasive techniques, you know. So Ayurveda has a lot of things there actually. But so our modern way of analyzing things are also inference. I cannot see my lungs open it. You know, X-ray is inference. X-ray is just radiation coming, it's on the photography, it's an inference. So Ayurveda is also inference, modern science is also inference. So this one must realize, and I think a very integrated approach is what is required. We'll see. Okay, so I am promoting this synthesis between the modern this and this is very much required, and our doctors, medical science, they have to change the attitude. Once I was traveling in a flight 1 year back, and I think Ananse Swami was with me, sitting in the back. And there was a young oncologist, researcher, he's a PhD, and he found an IIT professor, and he had some curiosity about many things. So I talked about Ayurveda. I mean, if it was not flight, he would have spit it, actually. So this kind of attitude, and see where China is going, China working on their traditional medicine, they have started getting Nobel Prize. The last Nobel Prize in cancer, actually, what it is telling, the best way to treat cancer is increase your immune system. So they're taking these ideas from here only, and if Indian doctors, they spit on our own Indian things, and let me tell you, I am seeing a full lobby of Indian intellectuals who are always against anything Indian. And I really, I appreciate a person like Professor Hegde. He's giving such a big support. I mean, I always keep hearing his YouTube lectures. You may not be aware of this. So somehow this is happening, and you learn to, I mean, you work on it, you research on it, and you don't have to blindly accept anything. So let us now come to the next slide. So nanoparticles. So nanoparticles is something, let me explain you. So, you know, a sphere, next slide, yeah. A sphere has a volume of 4 by 3 pi r cube. And it has a surface area of 4 pi r square. So what is the ratio? So ratio will be going as 1 by r. So surface to volume. So what is happening? 1 by r, if you look at the graph of r and 1 by r, so 1 by r will just, as you are approaching 0, it will go like this. So this is a very, very important thing in the nanotechnology, that the surface area to volume, and as you are going down the size, the property of the material changes. See, we work in our labs, almost like now 7, 8 PhD students have worked with me on nanofluid. We see that as you keep reducing the size, the color of the nanofluid changes. It's very interesting. From golden, it will become blue, this. So it's very, very important. And Charak was very much aware of this size. You will say the medicines will not have their efficacy if you don't go below a certain size. Now people may say that, did they have microscope? Yes, ancient Indians had microscopes. That is true. They had microscope to see smaller things. Now I don't have any proof. I cannot say that they were seeing these nano sizes. But Charaka and definitely they were aware that if you keep reducing the size, the property changes. So this idea was there actually. Okay. And let me tell you some very interesting things. So as you reduce the size, it can actually enter the cells. Bigger particles cannot enter the cells. Okay. So Ayurvedic particles, and I will show, they are all nanoparticles and very interesting nanoparticles. Okay. So another very small thing. People say from yagya you can purify the atmosphere, nanoparticles. Somebody will laugh actually from this much nano. Okay, there are other effects which are subtle, the mind and invoking the karma, the devatas, that is also there. But even from the nanotechnology, let me tell you something. We have found if you have 10 to the power minus 5 fraction, volume fraction of nanoparticle added in a fluid, the properties like thermal conductivity of the fluid can change by 20%. Something having thermal conductivity of 100, you make it 120, 130. How much you have added? 10 to the power minus 4 minus 5. That much we add. We say 0.001 volume percentage. That means by fraction it is like that. Now what is the secret? Although the volume fraction is very small, the number of particles per unit volume is very large. Because size of each nanoparticle is very small, and that will also go as 1 by R. So even if you are releasing 1 kg of nanoparticle in their nature, that is good enough. Okay, that is the point I want like to say. Okay, now let me now talk about our first work. So I will just not go into too much of technicalities. So next slide. So the investigation, this was started around 2006, and we presented in many places, and 2007-8 we published. To best of our knowledge, this is possibly the first work which actually proved that Indians were making nanoparticles much before. Okay, so we just go ahead. So I will not go into the procedure. So from the Puri College of Ayurveda, they followed the Charak Samhita exactly and prepared 2 forms of mercury sulfide. One is the black, another is the red. You call it Rasa Sindhur in Ayurveda. Okay, and we followed it, and what we did it every step, we actually taking sample and seeing what is happening. Every step we were, checking it, and we are seeing what is happening. And wonderful, those days they were doing reactive ball milling. Reactive ball milling means you take 2 kinds of materials and they form another compound. Okay. Now, next slide. Let me tell you something very interesting. See, finally, this cinnabar is actually mercury sulfide, but we don't use it in that way. We first extract mercury, we take pure sulfur, and there is a process of sodhana. In Ayurveda, you have sodhana, you all are here, Ayurvedic authorities, and there is marana and sodhana. So sodhana means you purify it. And you heat it in milk, like sulfur, it is boiled in the milk several times. Then it is, or in vinegar, you boil it for hours, the mercury. Why we do all these things? It's very important. I was thinking, and one day, what happens is these are all divine arrangement. With one chemical engineer, I had done some work which was published in a journal called Langmuir. So there, what we did is we saw that how some biomolecules, they bind heavy metallic ions. Actually, why these sodhanas are done? Simply to make it biograde. Because from the ore you will bring all kinds of materials. Lead, cadmium, so many other kinds of materials you are bringing. And our body is sensitive to parts per million. So that is why these sodhanas are done, and I am struggling hard to do some molecular simulation on that. Nowadays students don't want to work. I wanted this problem to give to one of my PhD students. So these PhD students, some guide MTech sitting from other place, he calls me, sir, please don't give him bio-related problem. I said, Baba, ye nature mein publish ho sakta hai. So no sir, no sir. So finally, nobody's, nowadays, people don't take interest to work on this. Okay, so go to the next slide. We followed the procedure. Okay, next slide. Next slide, so I'm not going details. See, you basically pure sulfur, pure mercury, and so two kinds of mercury sulfide are reported. One is black and one is red. And we followed the method. And somebody may say that it is you are making it, how do you know the Ayurvedic people are making it? Nowadays you have started making and this, that, this, that. And really it is true, because nowadays if you see what Baba Ramdev reports how they are making, they are using some modern machinery actually. I mean, those things are not there. I mean, for days they will do it, but they are using this actually. So finally the proof was, see, what we did is we characterized this under TM. Can you go to the next slide? See, this is a very high magnification. So this is like 20 nanometers. So you can see this is like magnified to 5, 7, 10 lakhs. So under transmission electron microscope. And can you show the next picture? See, this image, can you see? This is like this. You can see the atomic layers actually. You can see the crystal fringes. You can see, and these images are taken using HRTM. We have at IIT Kharagpur. And so, the final proof is that they were making is that this red and black, what is the difference? I explained to you. The nanoparticles, they keep changing color. As you reduce the size, the color changes. From pink, golden, and all these things will happen. The final proof was, actually what we did, we took the red one and we started the modern ball milling on this. And we found it converted to black. And what we found is that black requires a minimum critical nano size. And since these Ayurvedic practitioners were making, so this was the proof that they were making it. We communicated to certain journals, and the editor said that it is acceptable, but you have to cut these lines Ayurveda. I said, I don't have any dearth of journal papers. This has to be there. Then I found a new journal which has come out. We sent it, in 3 days they accepted it. So I think, so this is there. Later on, recently, yeah, go ahead. So, at Kharagpur IIT, we are working on Hirak Bhasma, Rajat Bhasma, Tamra Bhasma, and I'll show you some interesting pictures of that. Next slide. See, this is Hirak Bhasma. So this is like diamond. So you can see the size scale 10 nanometers. So this is the thing which is happening. And definitely below a certain size, the electronic property also changes. Next slide. See, this is Rajat Tamra Bhasma. So this Bhasma, you can see this itself is a nanoparticle, and a very interesting example of smaller nano, crystalline nano embedded in amorphous nanoparticles. So they have role. Now, only the Ayurvedic doctors, we have to work together and find out why it is like this and what kind of biological activity it has. I'm almost zero in biology, so, or medicine thing. But these are embedded crystals. Next slide. And you can see these crystallites. So this is amorphous. This is a bigger nanoparticle, and inside that, these are the crystal. You can see the atomic layers actually. Next. Yeah, so this is also something called Mukti Pishti. Okay. Now, what kind of research we are trying to do? So let me just tell you. We are really trying to see that the role of vinegar, fat, milk, when you do this shodhana, so what happens? So recently, we have one student, actually I was his PhD examiner. So, and I read in his thesis they are quenching, 42 times they are quenching and again putting in a juice and again heating and again quenching. So I then figured out why they were doing like this. Actually, they are doing like this because when you are quenching, it is taking the bad elements, the organic materials are taking the bad elements from the surface. And so you develop a concentration gradient, again you heat it, and the material will diffuse from inside, again you are doing the same thing. Okay, so next slide. Yeah, so we are also trying to investigate these nanoparticles, how they are going when they are approaching a DNA, what kind of molecular dynamics is happening. Okay, next. So very interesting thing. From your paper I got this inspiration actually. So if Vata Pitta Kapha, it can have effect. So it's basically the down approach on the DNA chain. It must also affect the electronic structure also. It must have an imprint. Okay, if I say effect, so presently physicists will laugh. So I will say it must have a counterpart in the electronic structure of the material. And we have started work on it. Next slide. So we have actually, this is the what we call it, the electronic band structure of the Hirak, the diamond nanoparticle. And next slide. So this is how the electron clouds look like, the total charge density inside it looks like. And there must be some imprint. So we need some Ayurvedic expert to tell us that these are the characteristics from the Vata Pitta Kapha, this point of view. This material has these characteristics. So we like to see now that from these macroscopic ideas, how it gets into the molecular and electronic level. Thank you very much.